Good job today, man. One at a time, and we'll get the job done. Y'all know what to say. On three. 1, 2, 3.
And the home of the Jets.
Mr. Jet Central, how you doing, man?
What's up, dude? How's it going?
Are you enjoying March Madness yet, or what?
Yeah, so honestly, I have it on here in the background. Let's see. I think it's the start of the Houston game. But I don't really follow college basketball like that, so try to tune in like around this time of year.
Well, I appreciate you making time to do this today. We usually do Tuesday nights, 7:00, but unfortunately, I've been dealing with some stuff, so like we had to push it back a little bit. So I appreciate you making time today, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
So we have free agency to kind of recap because we missed a lot over the last week. We also have some draft preview, so it's a lot of things to talk about. Some rumors, some speculation, which is always fun this time of year. But let's go to free agency real quick because I guess my easy question for you, which is a very easy question: how much have the Jets improved since day one of free agency, if at all?
Well, I think they did two things. Number one, they obviously got 4 starters, or three new starters, 1 starter back: Fields, Stevens, Cisco, Sherwood. I thought personally, I did not. I admittedly did not see Sherwood re-signing. I was a little hesitant, like, will Daramuji pay someone, pretty good linebacker money for someone he did not draft? It's not like he was a part of the team last season, so he didn't really see the progression that took place. Does he make that perfect sense for Aaron Glenn's defense in the middle of the field? But I'm happy he's back, right? Homegrown player. It's something that the Jets just don't really do all that much, is, retain their own homegrown guys. Hopefully that does change, with guys like Garrett Wilson and whatnot. But no, I'm really excited that we added. So, I mean, essentially, if you just list off all the positions of need: quarterback, right tackle, go through the entire list, we scratched 4 of those off as far as the starting lineup is concerned. And then we added a bunch of depth guys, Josh Myers, and I get it that, not all these guys are super, super exciting, but I do think, when you're talking about a team that's picking in the top 10, a team that doesn't have $120 million in cap space like the New England Patriots, a team that, already has a lot of starters figured out, you're going to the additions that you're not going to go out and sign like top end caliber players to be backups, right? Josh Myers is someone who I feel like is perfect, great backup, lots of starts, has the experience with Fields. He's not going to be overwhelmed by, being thrown into the lineup if he, need be. Okafor, I think, is pretty interesting. I'm sure we're going to talk about him in a sec, but I think the Jets are a better football team, with all these new additions.
Now, I mean, I'm okay with what happened so far. I understand the approach. If I'm being completely transparent, I'm a little bit disappointed because I'm all about getting playmakers on offense. They haven't done that as of yet. Justin Fields aside, because we obviously need the quarterback. I like Justin Fields' fit. We talked about wide receiver, tight end. As of now, not really happy about it. But do you think the state of the Jets where they're at right now, haven't made the playoffs in 14 plus years, new coach, new general manager, whole new staff, do you think players could be a little bit hesitant to be like, you know what, let me go join that rebuild? There's a lot of unknown commodities there, including the quarterback. Let me kind of not stay away, but like they either got to overpay me or I'm not going there. Do you think that could be a factor at all or no?
I think it's a really good point, but I think honestly, looking at how Daramuji's Denver Broncos have been built, over the years, it's always draft. That's the bulk. And then the side is free agency. Looking at how the Lions did their thing, right? All the great Lions players, Sewell, It's just going down the list. St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Jameer Gibbs, all these different guys, right? Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil. They're all, for the most part, it's draft, it's the bulk, and then the side is free agency / trades. And I think really the Jets kind of did the same thing here. Like they're going, I don't see a reason why, two guys that have came from like drafting and developing teams will join forces and now all of a sudden go, you know what, we're going to make the splashy plays. We're going to go, the splashy types of free agent picks, signings, and we're going to trade our picks for, veteran players. To me, it just doesn't really make all that much sense. So I think it's an interesting question, but I think it's actually flipped. I think the Jets were maybe a little hesitant. I don't want to overpay Slayton at wide receiver if we don't really feel like he's capable of being a wide receiver too. And we'll just save the money, stuff like that.
I think too that a lot of people didn't really value the free agent market as much either. Maybe we'll call it a weak free agency class where mid-tier guys are getting paid by high-tier guys. So it's like the value chart could have been busted based on guys that are kind of getting overpaid. We saw contracts. We're like, what? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, Kinlaw too. I mean, that was like, what? Like, I mean, imagine if the Jets did something like that,
100%. So first of all, a couple of super chats. New Jersey Nick, thank you. Or New York NYJ Nick, Dart plus Fields. I like it if so, just not at 7. And I guess what he's reacting to is the constant rumors now about Dart and the Jets being high, like Jets higher on him now. This is smoke and mirrors time, man. There's gonna be a lot of out there. I'm not so sure the Jets are taking any quarterback at 7 unless he completely blows them away at interviews, private workouts, and they're just like, this is our slam dunk guy, because there's too many other holes. I think you can maybe say, if we want a project guy or developmental guy, we can go round 2, round 3 later on, but I don't think round 1, unless maybe Shador falls. But what do you think?
Dude, personally, I'm not saying I'm right here. Like, who am I to, push back at what the Jets want to do? But this is something that I just do not want. Like, I would not do this if I was the Jets. Like, the way I'm looking at it again, like draft and develop, right? Mm-hmm. Muji, big contract. Aaron Glenn, big contract. They understand that they're not going to fix this thing in 1 year. Why? Like, this team has holes on it. This team has big time positions of need. There are multiple players that are better prospects than Jackson Dart. There are multiple players that make sense for this Jets team. I'm not going to take a developmental quarterback in the top 10. Mm-mm. Someone who's not quarterback 1, someone who's not quarterback 2. I feel like there's a pretty big drop off after Ward and Sanders to Dart. That's just me. Yep. And the option that we have at quarterback right now in Justin Fields is young. He still has room to grow. I mean, one of the biggest reports coming out of free agency, why Fields didn't want to return to Pittsburgh, was the chance that the Pittsburgh Steelers could draft a quarterback early and potentially throw him into the mix. So I don't see why, he would pick the Jets, switch teams, pick the Jets. All indications are that, are pointing to the Jets building around Fields, or, maybe tailoring the offense around Fields. I would go as far as to say, names on paper wise, this offensive line would be if we figure out right tackle, which very well could be, in the mix at 7, this could very well be the best offensive line that Fields has ever had. Let's see if there's something there. If we signed a stopgap, Mariota, Wentz, Daniel Jones, whoever, Brissett, then I'm more open to quarterback at 7. But if Fields is 26 years old, if Fields has potential, if you feel like you can, finally give Fields a true chance, like your quarterback 1, no questions asked. We're not going to have you compete or, force you into our offense. Like, no, you're our guy, even if it's just for 1 or 2 years, like just to see how it goes. Then I would much rather do that and go add, someone who you feel is maybe more of a safer prospect, like Membu or Tyler Warren or someone like that, where you can, not only just fill a position of need, but also help Fields out, at the same time. And I also think too, man, just it's unneeded pressure as well. Like if draft night wraps up, bro, Jets select Jackson Dart at 7. Fields has one bad game. When's Dart coming in? The headlines, the training camp up, like all these things. It's just like, to me, just why rush the process for someone who would have been, last year, like quarterback 9 or 10 in the class, if we take this season and
Yep.
last season and combine them, or even looking forward, he probably would be, QB6 next
So-
year.
And that's kind of where I'm at too. I'm like, I'm not rushing the process. I'm not gonna make a desperate move for a desperate organization because you have Justin Fields. I'm not saying Justin Fields is the answer by no means, but he's a guy that you can take it's like lightning in a bottle you're hoping for. 2 years, he's got a world of talent, build around it. But I'm willing to take a project quarterback in the later rounds. Like the more and more I watch Jalen Milroe and dig around a little bit, I'm like, wow, like if you look at what they're trying to do with Justin Fields in this offense, Jalen Milroe is a project guy on this. You're convincing me. I'm getting away from Shuck now, and it's pissing me off. But it's like you could see, but that's later rounds. Like, what would be a round that you would feel comfortable drafting a quarterback?
I would say day 3 because if you draft one, like we've talked a lot about it, we've texted about it. The way I'm kind of looking at this draft for the Jets, it's actually really, really good because the positions that it's deep in, tight end, D tackle, edge rusher, though even tackle, and some are deep. Some of those positions are deeper than others, but like if you are a team in the Jets, you're looking at starters at 7, 42, and 73.
Yeah.
I think the third round is 73.
Yep.
Because we had that weird jump with the misreporting. We went from like 90 something to 73, 92 to 73. That's 3 starters, man. However you want to shake it up, right? You want to go Membu at 7 and TJ Sanders in round 2, and then go with the best available tight end in round 3. That's 3 starters.
Yep.
If you want to go Tyler Warren round 2, Tyler Warren round 1, Tyler Williams round 2, Ozzie Trapilo round 3. That's 3 starters.
Yeah.
So if the Jets select a quarterback, at 7, at 42, you're essentially swapping out a starter or a potential starter for a developmental quarterback who, is going to sit behind Justin Fields. And you potentially run the risk of, and I don't want to make it sound like Fields is Josh Allen or something like that. Like there's a chance that he could flame out and it doesn't work.
Yep.
But I don't know. To me, you don't make that signing. You don't commit $30 million guaranteed, 2 years, 40 mil total to someone that you're like if the plan is Jackson Dart at 7, just go sign Marcus Mariota on a 1-year, $5 million deal.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That because like you have to figure when they go into free agency, they have a draft plan. They have kind of an idea of what they want to do even before all the other workouts. But listen, we want to get this guy in the top at number 7. We're not going to spend $20 million guaranteed in a quarterback for this kid. You could bring in a much cheaper guy, whatever, Minshew, whatever, like something like that to deal with it. So I completely agree with you. Now, another quick one. Thank you, John. If the Jets trade back from 7 to pick 15 and pick up Drake London from the Falcons, who would you like the Jets to draft at 15?
Well, I don't think the Falcons are going to be moving off of London. I mean,
so
he's
either.
coming off a great year. What did he have? Like 1,200 receiving yards or something?
I would gladly take him, though.
Dude, me too. Me too. Funny enough, he could have been a Jet, right? If the Falcons took Garrett Wilson, at 8 and London was there at spot number 10. But I'm all for the trade back. If you want to trade back to whatever, 14, 15, if whatever, there's a quarterback there, or maybe someone starts to fall and someone wants to come. The thing with trade back is like you need someone else. It's easier, like I feel like the team that's probably the best position to trade back is the Patriots at 4. Because, if Abdul Carter is there, Travis Hunter's there, and the Patriots are like, we really want a left tackle, but, there's really not one worth taking it for.
Do you see a world where Shador falls to the Jets at 7?
No. I think he's going to be a top 3 pick.
Okay. So we'll go from the quarterbacks to what I really want to talk about is the offensive line. We're going into this. Okay.
Well, real quick. Do you see Shador falling?
I don't think so either. I think there's a lot of teams are blowing smoke out there to get it out there to kind of make deception. But I think either build up there, somebody try to trip to get him or whatever else. But I don't think so either, man. There's such a premium on quarterbacks, and especially with how desperate the Giants are. If Cam goes before them, they are so desperate right now. Rodgers ain't going there. I'd be shocked if he went there. They need some kind of answer to keep their job. I think that'd be the guy to do it for him. So I don't see it either, to be honest with you.
What'll be weird is if Ward goes one to Tennessee, which I think is likely at this point.
Me too.
And then the Browns go with Shador at 2. And then the Giants are just left with, assuming Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, New York is left with like Jameis and.
I mean, are you shocked?
Could,
are you shocked that the Falcons didn't trade Kirk Cousins? I mean, I was blown away that they paid that bonus. I'm shocked they're holding holding stand with that.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. I thought he would have been available, but I mean, who's to say that he can't be moved? The week after the draft, because there's going to be one team that's left out. Like you talk about like musical chairs to the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I would say okay. Yeah, I mean, you can argue a bunch of different teams, right? If the Browns aren't sold on Sanders or Ward, but specifically Sanders, you can go with Hunter or Carter, whoever. Go BPA. You have the first pick in the second round. You can go BPA again. Maybe if Shuck is off the board and they're quarterback 3 and 4, they're gone. They don't like taking one with that top end second round pick. And say for example, you go out and get Travis Hunter in the first round, and then you're targeting Tyler Shuck in round 2 with 33, and he's not there.
Oh my God.
You come back and you get, maybe like an edge rusher or something. And now you're kind of coming out of the draft. Maybe you can get one late, but it's like, okay, Kenny Pickett, and that's it. Because Watson's obviously not going to be playing. You know what? Let's flip a 2026 draft pick for Kirk Cousins now. And Cousins, like the dust is settled, and Cousins isn't going to be on a team that's drafting a quarterback, and he's going to find himself in the same situation as last year. So I think maybe that's kind of the method to it. But who knows? Maybe he does stick with the Falcons. I don't know.
It's going to be wild. The draft night's going to be crazy. Now, offensive line, which is the talk of much debate, especially when it comes to pick number 7. The free agent moves were interesting. You talked about Josh Myers, where the solid depth piece, familiar with Justin Fields. Now, do you see a world to give flexibility to the Jets and maybe maximize the talent on their roster that they could move AVT to right tackle, being a need for a guard, and that frees up pick 7 to then go and get your Tyler Warren or somebody else? Do you see them doing that, or do you see them saying, you know what, the previous regime moved them all over the place, which is fine, but they told them, you're going to be a guard now, you're staying a guard. Can they say, hey, listen, we're new here, this is what we think you're best at, you probably make more money playing here? How do you think they handle AVT?
Yeah, dude, that's actually a really, really good point. Personally, I don't think it'll happen, but I do think it's nice to have this question. I would rather have this be an option as opposed to no flexibility with the positions.
Yep.
Personally, I think, I'm just going to keep AVT at guard. It's his best position. I think, AVT moving around, I'm no doctor here or anything like that, but I just don't feel like going from the left side, the right side, left side, right side, guard, tackle is good for. Yeah, I'm not saying it's contributed to the injuries, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
But you mean, would you see a world where Josh Myers plays center, Tippmann plays guard, and AVT plays right tackle? Could that even be a possibility?
I think it could be a possibility, but I just don't feel like, I feel like Tippmann is better as a center, and I feel like AVT is better as a guard. If you want a right tackle, if that's your weak link, just go attack right tackle. So as now, like trying to figure out.
No, I agree. Now, would you? I keep saying his name wrong. Okorafor, how the hell you say his guy's name is? Is he a potential starting right tackle, or is he a depth guy? So I'm trying to figure out at pick 7, everybody wants certain players, but I'm like, do we have? If you don't go offensive tackle at 7, you go Tyler Warren. Do we have a starter on the roster now, or do we still have to find one? And do you feel comfortable finding that starter in round 2, round 3, and round somewhere else?
Yeah, dude, that's the big question, right? Just putting the whole quarterback discussion aside for a sec, I think pick 7 is really going to come down to Tyler Warren or Membu.
Yep. And
whatever position that the Jets don't go with, it's going to be focused on in the mid rounds, right? Rounds 2, rounds 3.
Yep.
Personally, I feel like if the Jets stick at 42, they could find a right tackle there. There's a handful of guys that I really, really like.
What's the drop off though? What's the drop off from Membu to these guys?
Membu's, I would say, probably the best one and is the most athletic and has the highest upside. And by the way, Membu's only 20 years old.
Yep.
So that's like, I mean, you're thinking about Olu, who came in young, and
That's-
Membu. Like that's potentially like you're like not an over
Exactly.
exaggeration. Like you can literally have these guys for the next 8 years, which is, it's exciting. I mean, like as Jets fans, we're always talking about the quarterbacks getting hit, not being able to run the ball effectively, tackle issues. Oh, bring Moses back. He works. Now he's gone again. Tyron Smith, oh, he didn't work. Like it would be nice to just not have questions about two important positions. Which is, like I could easily see the Jets just going down that route. I feel like it's a safe route. Like, hey, just not even think too much into it. Not let's not overthink the pick here. We need a right tackle really, really bad. And Membu does fit. But if they do want to go with Tyler Warren, who helps in the pass game, helps on the run game, like he's just like he's such a movable piece.
Yeah.
You can say if you are, Tanner Inkstrand, okay, we'll throw Max Mitchell, Okafor, Carter Warren, and maybe a guy in round 2 or round 3, all at the mix, right? Have this 4-man competition and see who comes out on top. I think.
But do you have where's Will Campbell in this? Will he be gone already? Is there a chance Membu? Because Membu's getting so much hype now, dude. You saw him run. It's like everybody, this guy's a freak athlete, so much potential, young. Is there a chance he can go before him and Campbell's actually there or no?
It depends. I would say it depends on if New England views Membu as a potential left tackle option. If they don't think so, Jacksonville's another interesting one. Jacksonville's tough to read, like the Jets are, because they have a first-year GM and a first-year head coach. So we don't have like tendencies of the Jaguars. But I could see them maybe going with Membu, even though I feel like there's bigger needs for Jacksonville. But I think, first of all, I would take Membu over Will Campbell in a heartbeat. Because Will Campbell kind of scares me as a prospect. I'm not, if you need a guard and you're picking at like 11, like the Niners or like the Dolphins at 13, I think maybe that makes sense for Will Campbell, but not at 7. I just don't really view Will Campbell, first of all, as like a tackle prospect. I kind of view Campbell more so as a guard, and then you're also taking him and you're plugging him at right tackle. So there's a position change. It's kind of like a double position change, going from the left side to the right side. And how does he really project to the NFL as a right tackle? I just don't. It's a little too risky for me with the 7th overall pick.
Now, what do you think about wide receiver at 7, where everybody talked about Ted McMillan, crazy, catch radius and all the size the Jets desperately need. Do you see him as the legit candidate at 7? Like I kind of, for some reason, I don't think so. It's like, to me, it's like Warren, Membu, maybe, I don't know. I don't see quarterback. Maybe, I think it's kind of that me. A defensive player falls. I don't see wide receiver here. Maybe because don't think there's that slam dunk game breaking talent that kind of sticks out at you, where it's like, I think you get more value for offensive tackle and the tight end position. Like, where do you sit with that?
Yeah, no, dude, that's a really, really good point. Personally, I like McMillan a lot. Outside of Travis Hunter, I think he's the best receiver in the class. I think he provides some, and specifically when I'm talking about the Jets, I think he makes a lot of sense because he gives the Jets a skill set that they don't currently have. I mean, right off the bat, he'd be the 2nd best receiver on the team immediately. Like he could step in tonight.
Well, you'd be second best receiver on the team right now.
Yeah. Size.
You got Alan Lazard, man. What are you talking about?
McMillan right now is better than Lazard.
I'm only kidding, man.
Right now, dude. And, yeah, I know you are. But big playability, the back-to-back years of 1,000+ yard receiving seasons back at Arizona. He was the true threat there. It's not like Arizona had like a 2-man, it's not like the Wildcats had like 2 receivers going in round 1 here. Mm-hmm. And it's like, pick your poison. No, everyone knew McMillan was getting the football. Big play machine down the field, box out ability, kind of looks like a power forward, like catching alley-oops. Mm-hmm. Like that's how he is in the red zone. I mean, a nice, handful of one-handed catches as well. Fluid route runner. I think he's quick for his size. I mean, really the question with McMillan is like the top end speed. But, if you're talking like, okay, I just don't feel like it's realistic to say like, okay, you love him if he runs a 4.49, and if he runs a 4.54, you're like, oh, I'm out. I'm out on him.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's important too to compare McMillan to not just like receiver numbers, but receivers that have a similar build or play style. So like Mike Evans was post 4.5. I think he was 4.53. Drake London didn't even run the 40. Who didn't run last year? Marvin Harrison didn't run last year. Although Harrison's a better prospect. But like Vincent Jackson, right? I think he was another post 4.5 guy, like those bigger possession, like box out types of receivers that, you know, I feel like McMillan kind of compares more to. Like, I'm not going to sit here and compare McMillan to like a 40 time ran by Deshaun Jackson or Xavier Worthy or someone like that.
Yeah, of course.
They're different players. Or even like in the same class, like I'm not going to take Luther Burden's 40, who's like a shorter, shifty slot guy, to McMillan. They're two different types of wide receivers, in my opinion. So to compare them on the same scale, I think is a bit unfair. I like McMillan. If he's the pick at 7, I'm not going to argue with it. But I do see what you're saying, though, as far as maybe going with the better value. I mean, if the draft was tomorrow, what are you thinking? Membu, Warren, McMillan, hypothetically? I guess we could throw Mason Graham in there as well, because I wouldn't say he's like a sure thing, like a 100% lock to go before us. Out of those 4 guys, if you want to rank them, like right now, early on.
I'm down to Membu and Warren, dude. I'm all about offense, to be honest with you. That's why I'm staying there. I just think that's where the Jets have struggled. You add that, especially if you have those 2 bookend tackles, young as hell, that could be here for the next decade, which would be awesome. Something the Jets desperately need. You have a game-breaking tight end that can help the run game, help the pass game, especially when you only have Garrett Wilson as a receiver. I see so much value in that, where I know you need help on defense, but to me, it's like, build this offense. Most importantly, let Justin Fields flourish. Put him in the best chance to possibly succeed. And then if he can't, you say, listen, we gave you a chance, man. We gave you a great offensive line, a running game. You still couldn't complete 65% of your passes and make plays. So I'm kind of there. I respect defensive players. I understand all the needs there. But to me, it's about offense, dude. We've got to get better as soon as possible, especially if you want to have that young quarterback to grow. Say if Fields bombs out and they draft Milroe. You want Milroe to be the spot where, okay, listen, kid, you have a great offensive line in front of you. Like, we know you're going to be protected. That's where the Jets have failed for so long, where everybody's getting their asses beat for the last decade. So I'm more in that spot. We got another super chat here. A bold take. Taking a tight end in the first round would be the most same old Jets thing to do. Tight end is not a game-changing position at all. Graham, Tet, or Shador if he falls only. Oof. Not a Tyler Warren fan, I guess. To me, I think I can kind of dispute that, because I think with the way the Jets are currently set up with Garrett Wilson, as his only primary target, Tyler Warren's could be your number 2 receiver, other than Breece Hall out of the backfield, right? That's going to be like a legitimate. He's going to be your safety valve. He's going to be over the middle. He can do all kinds of things for you, help the running game. There's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, and it's also too. I respect that take though, because he's.
I get it. We had the same thing last year. We had the same thing with Brock Bowers last year, with Olu and Brock Bowers. We had the same argument last year, and Bowers is probably a better prospect than this kid.
Yeah, but I do feel like it's 2 different Jets teams. Like last year, around the point of the draft, it was like, hey, we still have unknowns on the O-line, like a lot of them. How will Tyron Smith look? Morgan Moses coming back, but he's coming off injury.
Yep.
We didn't know John Simpson was going to be this good. AVT coming off of injury. Right. So it was like, we don't have a long-term option at right tackle. We don't have a long-term option at left tackle. So for me, at least, and factor in Joe Douglas just could not find offensive linemen, brought in multiple offensive linemen. For the most part, not many of them worked out. So it was like franchise left tackle versus franchise tight end. I think most GMs are going to opt for the more important position, which is left tackle. And for context too, if Olu was in this class, he's not leaving the top 4. He would be the 4th pick to New England.
Yep.
Best pass protector in the draft last year, best pass protector in, assuming he was in this class, he would be the best tackle, no questions asked. So to get that guy at 11, where you actually trade back a spot, it is really, really good value. And last year's class was stacked. Whereas, we're coming into this year's class and it's like, okay, new GM, new team, 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen we already have figured out.
Yeah.
You talk about the whole AVT situation. I mean, even in that hypothetical too, we have answers there. We have kind of a sure thing. Like, okay, we know what we're getting from certain guys. Granted, different scheme change and whatnot. So it kind of frees you up to maybe go after a luxury type of position like Tyler Warren, who would come in, help the quarterback, help the pass game, help the run game, help the culture, because you listen to James Franklin, other people talk about Tyler Warren off the field. They love him.
Yeah.
Super humble guy, physical, tough. Does a lot of really, really good things. But also I think the Jets they're in a good position because they have for the most part, not every single case, but they have like the important positions figured out already. Left tackle, wide receiver 1, edge rusher, corner 1, and for the time being, Justin Fields. We'll see if that flourishes. We'll see we'll reassess. Like Fields needs at least a year, in my opinion, before we make a decision on his future. So we already have those things. RB1 too, if you want to throw that into the mix. So it's not like we're jacked, or it's like, let me think of a team that like there's teams out there that maybe, for example, like maybe Carolina, they don't have the edge rusher. They don't have the wide receiver 1. They don't have, specific spots on their roster to where it's like, should we really go with tight end here? We really need some important positions filled. The Jets really aren't in that boat. Not in every single, position on the roster. We obviously have holes, but I think Tyler Warren maybe makes sense for the Jets compared to some other teams picking in the top 10.
Yeah, and I think you can make an argument for Membu, where it's like everybody's putting such a premium on the offensive line now, watching the Eagles' success, the Lions' success, where it's like, you figure Aaron Glenn, again, Parcells guy, Parcells put a premium on offensive line as well. So you wonder if like that's his parent, like this is what our priority. We need to, build it up, buff it up, and then we can worry about everything after that and try to find your playmakers after. The one player I wanted to ask you about, like, with free agency, dude, you kill it. The Jets signed players I haven't even heard of before. I know about, but never really heard of. And within 5 minutes, you have a video up. And I'm like, how does he know this guy? So the one I want to ask you about, who's interesting, is the tight end we got, Stone Smart, who seems like he's got a lot of talent, unproven, obviously. It came relatively cheap. What's your breakdown on him? He seems like he's intriguing. It looks like a player that could be on the rise for this team.
Yeah, well, I feel like he kind of fits that mold of like a lot of these signings that the Jets made. Tyler Johnson from the Bucks, or Bucks and Rams, Rashad Weaver, Titans, Texans, where they're young. At one point in time, they were like they've gone in regular season games and have made positive plays, have impacted games. It's not just like a preseason warrior or just like a practice squad player that's like constantly, like you don't feel like the shelf life of him as an NFL player is like going to be for that much longer. It's like they have some potential there. They have like an untapped section of their game that we've yet to see. And so I feel like a lot of these signings, even in guys like, Justin Fields and Cisco, they're young, they're not at their ceiling as of right now. But with Stone Smart, like he was someone that came on late into last season, wasn't really much of an impactful piece, first couple years. But I mean, to stick in the league like this, I think is one thing. Personally, I'm not going to go into the year with him as my tight end 1.
You got Jeremy Ruckert, man.
Or Tyler. I mean, one conversation I think we should have getting closer to the draft is like, the mid-round tight ends. If we do go with Membu, we were talking about the whole Parcells thing. If we go Membu or, even McMillan, whatever at 7, the tight ends like Arroyo from Miami, Fannin from Bowling Green, like there's a lot of those kind of mid-tier tight ends that are really highly thought of, which I think that'd be fun to kind of have, we could spend a couple weeks kind of really diving into those prospects and then have a conversation like, do the Jets, does that make sense for New York to go down that route as opposed to taking Warren at 7? But no, I like Smart. I like the upside, but we'll see how it plays out. I don't feel like, outside of Fields and Cisco, I'm not going to sit here and give anyone just a job or a starting job.
Here we go. Thank you, Michael. Membu, Jaden Higgins, T. Ferg at 73. Trying to fill all kinds of holes here. What do you think?
I like that. I honestly would not be surprised if you could get Ferguson around 4, though. I don't like that. Yeah, Ferguson kind of checks that box as another one of those like mid-tier tight ends. Gunnar Helm from Texas is another one. there's a lot of those guys. They're kind of clumped into the middle of the draft, and you kind of get the feeling like that maybe there's going to be a run. When will the run start?
That's
Like
what I'm
bottom
wondering.
round 2, early round 3? Is it going to be mid round 3? Like when are the tight ends just going to quickly go off the board? Because like the whole approach, and like you can argue this with running back too. It's like when, like if you're a team that needs a running back, Genty, in my opinion, is the best one. Some people have argued Hampton. And I like Hampton, but I still think Genty's like that top guy. But it's you have the question, right? Do we take Genty now, or because this draft class is really deep with running backs, do we go BPA, whatever, and then focus on running back later?
Yeah.
But when that run starts happening, it's like, oh shoot, we better be in the position because these running backs are, because if one goes, the team that needs a running back next is like, you know what, let's just take them now. And then the team following that team is just like, okay, now 2 running backs are gone. Let me take, let's just get ours situated. And then the 4 team, and, it's kind of a domino effect. But yeah, tight end, I feel like it's going to be similar.
Yeah, that's where you want to be proactive and not reactive. You don't want to react to the draft. You want to have your own draft. And that's where I think the Jets have gotten caught in that in the past a couple times. Now, the thing is, on the defensive side of the ball, defensive tackle was a huge concern of ours, as the Jets lost a lot of people last year. The guys they had this year didn't play all that well, so now they're recycling players in and out. They signed a couple interesting players. And the one guy, Nandi, is really, really interesting. But you have Byron Cowart. You mentioned Rashad Weaver. They have a couple guys here. What are your thoughts on these guys? And do you think they're going to be an upgrade of what's left? I mean, because you figure a lot of guys have left. I mean, Sama Thomas is gone. I mean, Hassan Reddick, the big value that Hassan Reddick was, he's gone now. Michael Clemens is still here, surprisingly. I mean, what do you think about the guys they've acquired?
Dude, he's interesting, man, to me, because of course, he fills a need, 315 plus pounds, but he's been a contributor with the Super Bowl champs. Sorry, 3-time Super Bowl champs throughout the course of his career. And, it's someone who is capable of stopping the run. That is something that the Jets have really, really struggled with. You got to kind of opt to Aaron Glenn. Hey, you know what? He knows and Steve Wilkes, for that matter, 2 veteran defensive minds. In the case of Aaron Glenn, a former player as well, has those, ties to all these different great coaches. You'd like to think that they know where their weak spots lie. They know their priorities in their defense. If Nadi's someone that, like right now, Nadi's a starter next to Q. That's how I'm viewing it. Does it rule him out of taking a DT in the draft? No. But because, to be fair, he is coming off the worst year, one of his, he was downgraded from starter to backup. Now, part of that is because the Chiefs had like a lot of rotation and they had a lot of, talent on the inside of their D line. But I really like that addition. I think he could be kind of that instant impact day one type of, addition. And when you're getting, meaningful games, your starter on a Super Bowl team year after year after year, I think that says something about you as a player. The stats might not be there all the time, but, especially in a Spags defense, you need players to maybe do some of the dirty work and the other players get credit, so I think maybe he's one of those types of players. Rashad Weaver is interesting too. Not, whatever, saying he's going to be a 10-sack guy, but I think edge rusher is going to be one of those sneaky positions of need, because you have Will McDonald and then you have Jermaine Johnson, but Johnson's coming back from the Achilles. One thing that we're always hearing, Aaron Rodgers, he needs a full year to recover from the Achilles. Kirk Cousins, full year to recover.
Breece Hall.
Yeah, Breece Hall. Weaver's playing, and dude, that's a quarterback. Weaver's going to be playing edge, or Johnson's playing edge. So what happens if he gets off to a slow start? What happens if there's maybe a little setback, or if there's a small tweak? And it's like, well, great, we don't have any more edge rushers that we feel good about. So, I don't want to run the risk of forcing him out there, playing him because we're so thin. In the 4-man defense, like, you have to rely on the edge. I mean, like, if you're a Lions fan, they constantly talk about how they need another edge rusher opposite of Hutchinson, the passer. So I don't know. I kind of want to have that security blanket. If Jermaine Johnson is maybe a little slow getting started here off the Achilles, maybe Weaver's that guy. He's really, really big.
Yeah, he's now is defensive line or defensive tackle like a huge need going into the draft? Like if you had like your huge needs, obviously we're talking about tackle, we talked about tight end, we talked about wide receiver. The Jets made a bunch of like depth signings. Do you feel comfortable what's there now to say it's not a pressing need for the first 3 rounds? Or if they say who take Warren Membu, who they take in the first round? No, if one a quality guy is still there in the second round, I'm taking because it's a huge hole for us. Like is like that is it a hole for the Jets or not? I guess I'm kind of asking you right now.
I would say, dude, if there's one that Aaron Glenn loves, that he feels like, hey, I can really work with this guy, I can really turn him into something. I think that the Jets would take him. Like Tyleek Williams from Ohio State is a freaking beast. Like I think he'd be a great fit next to Quinnen Williams. I don't think Kenneth Grant falls to 42. That would be crazy, even though I feel like maybe his better fit would be like nose tackle in a 3-4. I think Arizona makes a lot of sense for Kenneth Grant, but if somehow he's on the board, that would be great. TJ Sanders from South Carolina, just another like disruptive defensive tackle. Jordan Phillips from Maryland, maybe he's also better fit for a 3-4, but I don't know if Aaron Glenn like is looking at one of the. That's what Detroit did, right? Owens Enrique was the second round pick. Ali McNeil, obviously, he was developed really well with Detroit. Another kind of higher end pick in those mid rounds. I think it's definitely worth addressing more. But I also think D tackle in this year's class, it's hard to reach on. Like if the Jets come away with the D tackle in round 2, it's going to be very difficult for the Jets, for whatever draft insiders, for media members to say like, what are the Jets doing? Why are they reaching on a player like this compared to like a Jackson Dart or maybe like selecting like Matt Golden or something at 7, where it's like, okay, you kind of understand it, but this is considered a reach by many people's standards. With D tackle, I don't really feel like it would be considered a reach at all in this year's class because there's that much talent.
Does that apply to tight end position as well, do you think, or no?
It really depends on how you kind of view these guys, right? Like if Aaron, to me at least, like how that's the question, right? Because you have Warren and Loveland. Both guys I really like, even though they're two different styles of tight end. But after those guys, like how big is the drop?
That's the question. Yep.
If you're talking about, I'm going to leave Brock Bowers out of it because he was like a crazy prospect. But like, if you view Tyler Warren as someone who is going to be like I guess we could throw Bowers into the mix, like a Bowers, a Kittle, a Kelsey, Gronk when he was with New England, Greg Olsen when he was with Carolina. Like if you view Warren like that type of weapon, Loveland is like that type of weapon, but Arroyo is going to be like a Juwan Johnson, a Dalton Kincaid, a Dawson Knox type of tight end.
Right.
Then, I don't know. Like it really just depends how much do the Jets value the tight end position, because one thing that's interesting with tight end is that these top guys don't hit the market. So if you truly believe from a front office and coaching perspective that Tyler Warren, let's just say, can be a top 5 tight end for the rest of his career, or maybe like top 10 year 1, top 5 year 2, like all of a sudden that positional value does go up because, look at what Kelsey's done for that offense. Look at what Gronk did for New England. Look at what, Greg Olsen did for Carolina. Like these top tight ends, they don't just hit free agency. And it's not one of those positions where people have to pay a lot of money to, but they're always re-signing with their teams. So you're essentially like drafting access to a top 5 tight end or a potential top 5 tight end for 8 to 9 years. And that I think is maybe the better way to look at it compared to, does he help us next year or not?
I think it puts a bigger spotlight on him is the Jets desperate. I guess they're desperate, man, because they only have Garrett Wilson and that's it. And that's why to me, it's like, we don't have the wide receivers that we really need. We're not going to, there's no overnight cure for that. If so you have Tyler Warren who can actually be that tremendous asset. If you had, say, Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams this year, you'd be like, all right, listen, we have passing targets here. We can go defensive tackle. We can go all, because like you don't feel as much pressure to address playmaker now as me speaking for myself. I have stood desperately for playmakers where I'm handling as such, where if you have Devontae Adams or some other, whoever, great number 2 receiver, you don't feel as much pressure to address the need. But now I feel that pressure. If it could be a spot where we don't know what the offense is going to be, but you can kind of see where it's heading to, more grounded pound, RPOs, things like that. So it's fascinating, man. We could argue about this all day long. There's so many things we don't know what the Jets want to do. We're just trying to find the best player. But do you think they're in a position of best player available at a position of need, or best player available, just take the best talent on the board because we have so many holes? Like, how would you handle the draft if it was you?
I would say, well, if it was me, I would really come down to, I mean, of course, best player available you never just want to draft purely for need. But I think for this draft class, it lines up well for the Jets because the better players on the board actually makes sense for the Jets. Like if we walk away from the draft with McMillan at wide receiver, good player, is he worth spot number 7? People would say no. Some people would say yes. Some people would say no. But the Jets would you couldn't argue the Jets would be worse with McMillan, or the Jets would be like McMillan would be a needle mover.
Right.
Like in the, Membu would be a needle mover. Yeah. Warren, Loveland. Like there's a lot of guys that you can say like, okay, this is a big impactful piece for the Jets compared to like, say if they went with like Jahdae Barron, more so like a zone corner, good player. The Jets get better with Barron, but does he really make sense? Like, nah, not really. But some people have Barron rated over McMillan, so there's obviously that kind of tug of war. But the way I'm looking at it, yeah, I'm focusing in on offense. Even if Mason Graham was there, I would still focus in on offense.
Me too.
I think Mason Graham would be, I would walk away from day one like pleased. But I think the D tackles in that second round is really like where I'm trying to, hone in on. Because I feel like offensive weaponry is more important at this point in time. And I feel better about the D line with the guys that the Jets have brought in, with Noddy and Weaver a little bit, because we're kind of rounding out the depth. Whereas, 3 weeks ago, we didn't have that depth. We had no, options at D tackle next to Q. But now, it's looking like, okay, we've added a couple vets.
Because like I kind of had and this is just my own opinion, that with Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks, if you give them enough to work with, they can do enough to get you results, where I think you literally need more talent offense to make this offense run. So that makes sense, where it's like, listen, okay, they can scheme things on defense, and they can do things over there with maybe the lesser talent, where on offense, the Jets don't have the talent, and they need to add that. And that's why I want to have that to be like the premium picks. But there are many people that are saying, you know what, safety's still a need. They got Cisco. They're bringing Tony Adams back as of now. Do you think that there could be a scenario where the first 3 rounds they take a safety? Because, look the way Aaron Glenn runs his defense, Matt, or like he could run his defense.
I could see it. I could definitely see it. But I think another thing to kind of build off of your point, with maybe going offense first, defense later, is that Aaron Glenn, of course, defensive guy, first-year head coach, they know they have time to really build this thing out. I just don't get the sense that Glenn is going to be gone after year 2.
No.
Bougie, same type of deal. Like it really feels like this is the long haul, and they're going to build accordingly. And Glenn has that scouting background, and he's been a player. He's called the defense. He's worked his way up. He's been around great coaches. I think from his standpoint, it would maybe be like I trust Aaron Glenn. Like if the Jets select a D tackle or a safety in rounds 2 or 3, I'm going to say, you know what? Aaron Glenn's on board with this. Steve Wilks is on board with this. Because I have confidence that these guys can actually develop those players from a coaching perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's like on offense, in other words, I feel like Aaron Glenn's maybe eye for talent, maybe from a scouting perspective, might be better on the defensive side. Just a pure assumption here. Who the hell knows? Maybe it's 50-50. Maybe he has a better eye for offense. I don't know. But because Glenn is the defensive guy, I think maybe like, hey, go out and get the premier weapon, the premier offensive piece in round 1, and then come back in rounds 2 or 3 or both on the defensive side.
Yeah, and that's you made a great point there because I keep thinking about that, like listening to his scouting background, how detail oriented he was, and how thorough he was, and knowing what he wants in his defense. You figure he's probably watching a ton of like film and all kinds of stuff. Where it's like, all right, listen, I understand what this value chart is. Give me this guy in the fourth round. I know I can work with him and get the most out of our defense. These first couple rounds, let's go in a different direction where we need. I'm going to say offense just from my own perspective, but that's kind of where I'm looking the same way. Where it's like we just need better talent on offense. We can make things work on defense. And I'm hoping that's the approach, to be honest with you. That's because it's desperately needed. Like my biggest threat of all this is that Justin Fields just doesn't have anything to work with, where God forbid Garrett Wilson gets banged up and we're sitting here like, we really don't have it. We can only run the ball. It's all we can do. You can't be a one-trick pony in the NFL, and the Jets offense is back to the days with Adam Gase again. That's my fear. So it's like, find ways to avoid that. You avoid that by adding playmakers. But the one question I have for you is, and this is something that there's a lot of Aaron Glenn haters out there that just don't like him because they wanted somebody else. And their biggest thing right now is, are you surprised that the Jets didn't sign any former Lions? Like we've talked about in the past, where every coach that comes in, they usually bring one of their guys. Like Saleh was Solomon Thomas, Rex Ryan was Bart Scott and Jimmy Leonard. Everybody had their captain, their voice in the locker room. And as of now, we don't really know who that is. And something they have one. Are you surprised no former Lions came here?
To be honest, not really. I know a lot of a lot of the beat reporters were like throwing out like Levi Onwuzurike, Tim Patrick, Derek Barnes was another one. But Onwuzurike and Derek Barnes both re-signed with Detroit. Did Tim Patrick re-sign with Detroit?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So what's funny is you have this other team in Detroit. Like the world doesn't revolve around the Jets, unfortunately, but you have this team in Detroit where they lost their OC, they lost their DC, they lost positional coaches. Tanner Engstrand, Hayden going to the Jets. Ben Johnson took some Lions coaches over to Chicago. The Lions had cap space. The Lions had, I think, $53 million coming into the offseason. They lose Carlton Davis. There's just no way that the Lions are just going to sit idly by and just allow all of these players, all of these coaches to leave. The Lions have a really, really impressive culture, and I think guys want to be a part of that. The Lions are they're a lot further along than the Jets are. They're in the NFC. If I was a player playing in Detroit and I get two similar offers, I think I would just probably just stick with Detroit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's. He hit it perfectly right here. It's like, you're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. You're one of the best teams in football, not like the NFC, in football, going to arguably one of the lesser teams in the AFC. You're going to the complete apples and oranges. If I had my choice, I'm staying where I'm comfortable. I'm staying where I know I can win this year. That's where I'm staying. So I don't think it's an indictment on Aaron Glenn. It's an indictment on the Jet situation where it's, listen, man, coach, I love you to death. I would love to play for you. I want to win 12 games a year. I want you to win the Super Bowl. I know you can't do that this year. Maybe in 3 you can, not this year. I'm staying where I'm at. Can't blame him, dude. And Tim Patrick too. You're in a high flying offense. You're comfortable there. You have all your opportunities there are just more than what they would be here, no matter where you are in your career. So to me, it's like there's some people that just don't like Aaron Glenn to want to just dump on the Jets endlessly. I don't think it's an issue at all. Speaking of what he is as the head coach, but I am curious to see who becomes his vocal leader, who's his captain in the locker room.
Yeah, for real. I mean, it's not to say that, someone here can't already be that. I feel like Jamie and Sherwood is going to be that guy. You look at the Lions defense, kind of how they operate. Dude, Aaron Glenn puts a ton of responsibilities on the linebackers plate. Rush the passer, drop back in coverage, help stop the run, kind of be the quarterback of the defense. I don't think the Jets need Tim Patrick to come in and help teach, the wider. How much of a drop off is Tyler Johnson or Tim Patrick to Tyler Johnson? I would argue it's probably flipped at this point. But no, I mean, I get I thought the Jets were going to bring in at least one, maybe former player, or even someone that worked with Darren Muji over in Denver, where you have a thorough scouting, breakdown. But it's not like he's coming in from New Orleans where they're whatever it is, $60 million over the cap, and guys kind of slip through the cracks and they need, to sign on to new teams. The Lions had a ton of cap space. So you just kind of envision them, they're losing all these different guys. They're going to retain the guys that are kind of, like the glue that kind of keeps the roster together. So like those
Now,
depth pieces.
in terms of who's still on the roster, Alan Lazard and Greg Zuerlein to me are both just shocking at this point. But now the Jets, I think, according to everything I've read, the Jets have used their June 1st designations on Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I think that's correct, right? So you can't use that designation on Alan Lazard anymore. Is he going to stay? Are they really keeping him? Like, is that their plan? Saying, you know what, we looked at the free agent market. He is making a lot of money, but like based on value, he's already here, continuity, whatever. He knows, like, Sean Jefferson knows him. Maybe they think they can get something more out of him, get more discipline, better production. Can that be the case? And we're just kind of ignoring it.
I mean, I guess so, because the room is thin, but I mean, just based off of
Rodgers
the production.
And Mosley, I'm sorry, Mosley, Rodgers and CJ Mosley. It wasn't Devontae Adams.
Yeah, they. I don't know, man. I'm not really understanding it. Like, who knows? Maybe Lazard in a different style of offense will look a little bit better. But if Lazard had like his guy throwing him the football, his guy Nathaniel Hackett, calling plays and running the offense. Supposedly Lazard knew the offense really, really well, and he was a healthy scratch. At points back in 2023. Last year, just kind of felt like he was constantly dropping the ball every week. Like every single week, there was like a drop or two from Lazard.
Yep.
That does not match the price tag attached. Unfortunately, I wish it worked. I wish we saw more production. But maybe, I don't know, maybe the Jets are just kind of waiting to see where Rodgers lands, and then they could try to flip him over. If Rodgers goes to the Giants or the Steelers, like, because Rodgers is going to come in and say, hey, I have my preference with certain guys.
Yeah, it's dude, him and Zuerlein make no sense to me. I genuinely don't understand it. Now, there are still some big names out there in free agency. I know Steph Diggs is meeting with the Patriots. Do you think teams are kind of like the signs are kind of die down now a little bit, and everybody waits till the draft and say, okay, listen, let's see if we address our needs in the draft, and then if we don't get who we want, we go out and spend money on these guys? Do you think things get quiet now, or there's still maybe a couple signings between now and the end of April?
I think there might be a handful. What are you talking for the Jets or for everyone?
For everyone.
I think there might be a couple, like a decent, like maybe like 4 to 5 signings, 6 signings maybe. Like I'm talking like actual starters. Because like there's still some solid guys like Jedrick Wills is still out there at right tackle. Julian Blackmon is out there at safety. Stephon Diggs at wide receivers out there. Like I feel like there are guys that are, teams could maybe sign on 1-year deals, but it also kind of feels like, we're at the section of free agency where teams want to hit the draft and then they come out of the draft and they still have needs. And they're like, okay, you know what? Let's go get this guy on a cheap 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Asante Samuel's still out there too. That's a good call.
There's some big names
out there. The Bills.
Yeah, the Patriots are loading up. They're all making crazy moves. But I'm curious to see what the Jets do. If they kind of like, seems like I don't think they're slow playing the market. I think they're just maybe they are slow playing the market. See what kind of values are, because a lot of in terms of the wide receiver group, a lot of guys were getting cheap deals. The Jets weren't really interested. There's still some big names out there. Maybe the prices are too high, so maybe they say, hey, you know what? We'll wait to the draft, see if we get Ted McMillan or whatever else, and then if not, we maybe make a big splash, in June or something. I don't know. There's so many unknowns. We don't know what Muji is. We don't know what Aaron Glenn's scheme is. Like, we don't know so many things. We're trying to figure out, trying to piece it all together with a lot of unknowns.
Right. And, I wasn't suggesting Diggs for the Jets. I was just, saying Diggs is probably going to sign somewhere. I don't think he's a fit for the Jets at all, culture-wise.
100% no.
Especially not for Fields and Garrett Wilson and how last season went.
No, absolutely not. Is there any guy that you have your eye on for the Jets between now and April?
Maybe if the Jets want to, continue building out the O-line, but no one that I'm like pounding on the table for, like, we need this player immediately.
Yeah, I'm in the same
boat.
What about you? I'm in the same boat as well. I'm kind of like just wait and see mode and see what happens. Where do you think Aaron Rodgers goes now that it looks like the Vikings are out of the mix? Is it down to the Giants and Steelers or retirement?
I'll probably just say Pittsburgh. Like with the Giants, you kind of feel like they're willing to overpay, and Rodgers will step in and be like, hey, I'm the guy. Short commute, right? Going for the Jets to the Giants. You go out and get my guys. Like Rodgers would have more control with the Giants. With Pittsburgh, it's like I don't see him coming in bossing Tomlin around.
Yeah, I think, to me, Rodgers would be the same thing for the Giants that he was for the Jets. He's going to be the king of the castle and the savior. Here he comes to save our jobs. It's literally the same. Almost cursed again. The same thing. It's the same thing. They're trying to save their jobs. What are Silent Douglas trying to do? They're trying to save their jobs. They're, in theory, a quarterback away. Does he want to do the same thing again or go to a legit win-now team that has winning in their DNA and go there and be a piece of the puzzle? And then it comes down to money. It's going to be fascinating, dude. So he goes to Giants, it's going to be about money. They gave him like the Matthew Stafford offer. They had to give him something ridiculous because no guy in their right mind would take the Giants over the Steelers. There's no reason.
Well, let me just kind of pause you there. If any quarterback would pick the lesser job for the more, in exchange for the more power, more say,
could be him.
Look at me, look at us type of thing. I would guess it would be Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean that would be such a circus. I don't know. I just think he goes to the Steelers. I'm just playing it out, and this is what he does. He drags it out, slow playing it. I think he's probably hoping the Vikings were more interested and kind of took him along, and it'll probably happen right before the draft, like it always does, so he can get all the the attention to himself. But it's never a dull moment with him, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It should be interesting. I do feel like in the end it'll probably be the Steelers, just smarter play. How much money can the Steelers, afford to hand out to Rodgers? I don't know. That the Giants will drop the cash, and the Giants are more desperate. I mean, you can argue that Tomlin's seat is starting to get a little hot.
It is.
Because the Steelers can always go back to Russ and say, hey, we made the playoffs with Russ. He knows Arthur Smith, whatever. But with the Giants, if you miss out on Cam Ward, you've already missed out on Matt Stafford. Supposedly they're interested in Russ. They're interested in Jameis Winston. I mean, I don't know. Does Kirk Cousins kind of fall? Is he a domino? If
this is why they should have fired them. This is why they should have fired both Dable and Shane, because you can't work in desperation like this. They're like desperate for band-aids to try to save their job. It's not the way to win. It's not that I care. I'm not a Giant fan, but saying this is becoming a mess pretty quickly for them because they look like it's embarrassing now.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be interesting. I think, yes, Sanders will not be getting past the third pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. So we covered a lot, man. We covered free agency. We covered the draft. We covered some Giants. Again, I apologize to everybody, man. I've had a rough week, man. So we couldn't do Tuesday, so I'm kind of just trying to get through it. So anything else we need to cover here, man?
I think we're good.
Cool. So next week, we promise we'll be back on schedule. Next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, our normal time. And thank you, everybody. It's been helping my fundraiser. I'm over $3,100 already, which is crazy. Got 3 weeks to that. So if you want to donate, it's in my link. Link's in the description. Other than that, let's see. What the draft is what, a month, like 5 weeks away or something? It's around the corner, man.
Yeah, like 5-ish weeks.
I can't wait, dude. I can't wait to get like more of the details of just like breaking down more positions and stuff, because free agency is pretty much over now. So now we can start arguing more about the ranking of the players, which is always fun.
Definitely, dude. Definitely.
How much? I had one more question. I have to know this. How much tape do you watch on players? Like, how much film do you watch, or you just go like, do you study by team or by player?
Are you talking like free agency or like
college for the draft?
So recently, I got access to the all 22 college film, which is freaking sweet. Normally, like how I would do it is, I just literally post up on Saturdays, watch college football games. Because that's, to me, like the biggest, the biggest, I'm not really blown away about like the pro days and the combines and stuff. Yeah. Like I'm using that stuff, to me, at least, like as like a verification type of thing. Like if I feel like a player's really, really fast and he runs a really fast time, like, okay, he's fast. Or, like you use it kind of like to like net out some of the questions, right? So like for example, like Will Campbell's arm length was an issue back in college. How does his arm length kind of test out at the combine? Oh, it turns out he's actually below average. Yeah. So it's like, okay, you know what, if it was a problem in college and showing up at the combine and this is the numbers aren't like inflated like we maybe see at a pro day, this could very well be an issue. Let me just make a note of that mentally moving forward. But like the all 22 is pretty interesting. because you can rewind plays
Yeah, of
and
course.
really kind of see like what the quarterback's looking at, or maybe what the safety's looking at, like how quick is his like adjustment time if you're watching it in slow motion compared to like watching it on TV and the safeties are like literally off screen. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's awesome. So I can ask you all kinds of questions. I can give you all my draft questions.
Yeah. If you
I'll
want.
drive you crazy.
I mean,
man.
I'm a freaking nobody, but yeah.
Well, like I said, the next 3-4 weeks we'll be focusing primarily on the draft, breaking all down, predictions, analysis, all kinds of stuff, ranking players, and based on the Jets' needs. We appreciate all your guys' support, especially at a random 3 o'clock on a Thursday. So this is pretty different. So thank you guys for checking it out. We'll be back Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Have a great weekend. If any breaking news comes out, go to his channel. He's always on it within 5 minutes.
We'll see, man. We'll see.